Okay, on close relationships, the text starts off by discussing attraction, proximity, and similarity. So before you have a close relationship, there is probably attraction involved there. Physical attractiveness, that's of course going to be a part of this. Another key component is proximity, just the idea that you are physically around someone. You might be more attracted to someone that you see every day compared to someone that you see just once a month. There's a term for this. It's called the mere exposure effect. Basically, the more that you encounter something or someone, the more that you're going to like that thing or person. In addition to proximity, similarity plays a role as well. Birds of a feather flock together. You might have heard that opposites attract, but for the most part, people want to be around those that are similar to themselves. You like yourself, so you want to be around people that are like you. If they're similar to you, they provide consensual validation. Basically, the idea they support your ideas that your attitudes and behaviors are good. It's possible that having a time of attraction, after a time of attraction, you'll move into love. And the book talks about two different types of love: romantic love and affectionate love. Romantic love is like the first stage of love. It's more of a passionate love. It's about sex. It's about infatuation. And it often dominates that early part of the relationship. Hopefully then what happens is you move into this affectionate love. It's also called companionate love. And it's more than just passion. It's about having actual deep, caring affection for the other person. So you move from just having a physical relationship to a deeper, more loving relationship after time. There are a couple models of close relationships that the text discuss. There's social exchange theory and the investment model. With social exchange, it focuses on the cost benefits of one's romantic partner. You're trying to maximize or minimize your costs and maximize your benefits in that relationship. An important part of this theory is equity. An idea that each person in the relationship is doing their fair share. It's almost like you keep a mental checklist of where you are. What you've put in versus what you've got out of the relationship. With the investment model, long-term relationships are more likely to continue when both partners are committed, when they both have a great deal invested in the relationship, and there are few tempting alternatives. This type of commitment will cause people in the relationship to sacrifice for one another. Also, this type of relationship helps both members reach potentially their best possible selves. The chapter closes out with a brief section on health and social psychology. Some researchers, they claim that social ties are super important, if not the most important variable in predicting health. As an example, one study showed that social isolation was more detrimental to health than smoking was. There's researchers that looked at the data, and maybe that's not quite accurate, but at least it's the possibility that social isolation and loneliness is very detrimental to your health. In another study involving heart attack patients, those living alone were nearly twice as likely to have a second heart attack. So loneliness is linked to impaired physical health and maybe even early death. People with many types of social ties, they live longer than people that don't. So social ties, they might even influence things like whether or not you catch a cold. An example, the researchers, what they did was they measured participants' social ties. They have these different types of relationships, friends, family, etc., and then gave them nasal drops that contained a cold virus. Those with more diverse social ties were less likely to catch that cold. So it was almost like the social ties, there's at least a correlation there, maybe a protective factor against things like disease, colds. So loneliness is a problem, and a lot of people get lonely when they come to college. The book talks a little bit about this. Your lives are completely changing. Your social ties are completely changing. If you are feeling lonely, get out there. Try to join in on some activities. Maybe try to join a group. There's all kinds of groups on campuses. You could also do some volunteering, which is by itself not just good for loneliness, but it's also good for your mental health just on its own, giving to other people. By getting out there, doing these things, joining groups, doing volunteering, you might develop lifelong relationships. And if you're super lonely and you can't get rid of it on your own, you might also want to talk to the counseling services at the school. If there is anything that you're interested in learning more about from this chapter, I encourage you to look at PsycInfo. You can also look at the textbook for the specific citations to the specific studies that were mentioned in these videos. You can also check out some books that are devoted solely to social psychology. This is an intro course, and so it's just kind of a cursory example or looking over. Social psychology is just one chapter in the book. Some of the textbooks for social psychology are great and go way in depth into some of these ideas. Finally, if you're like, well, I don't want to get another textbook, there's a number of non-academic books that cover these type of topics too. Books by people like Malcolm Gladwell, for example. Okay, I hope you found this chapter to be interesting. Thank you for watching these videos.